If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. I'm your host. My name is Ray Johns, and as you can see on the screen, we've changed our name, and we will be henceforth known as Ray Johns American Patriot. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but before we do, let me thank all of you people. I mean, heartfelt thanks to all of you. I got so many phone calls. I got so many cards. I got more cards saying get well than I did for Christmas. And I want to thank you for that. I mean, they just kept, every time I picked up my phone, someone else was calling to wishing me well. I have gone through believe me, some challenges. It is unreal. I was in the hospital 3 times, and I'm out now. I'm doing very, very well. I'm still a long ways from 100%. I'm probably 70, but I am getting there, and I will get there. Now, let's talk about the name change. And when we talked to Gary, we got Gary Miguel. It was his idea. It was a great idea. I've talked to a bunch of colleagues. I talked to all the people that mean the great deal to me. They all thought it was a great idea, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Our format will not change. It'll be the same. However, we're going to do something a little bit different. Every week we're going to feature a great American patriot. And this week it is Molly Pitcher. Now, her name was originally Molly Hayes. They changed it. This great American patriot actually fought during the Revolutionary War. At first, what she did was she was carrying pitchers of water from a nearby spring so that she could, the soldiers could drink. And then she would carry them, and she would cool off the cannons. Well, her husband was manned a cannon, and when he was shot and hurt, she actually took over the cannon and finished that particular battle, which was the Battle of Monmouth, and it was just outside New Jersey. And she actually finished that battle firing the cannon. In 1822, long after the Revolutionary War, she was awarded a $40 stipend for the rest of her life, and awarded several other medals. I can't remember exactly what they were, but several other medals for bravery and for helping with the victory at Monmouth. So our very first American patriot, Molly Pitcher, and we're going to do a different one every week. And let me bring in Gary, my good buddy Gary McGrath. God, I can't talk today. I'm so excited about being. But Gary Miguel is back with us today. Good, buddy. Good to see you.
Good to be back.
And you might talk a little bit about that name change. This was his idea, by the way, and it went over like hotcakes.
Well, Ray, number one, I'm certainly thankful that you're back.
Thank you, buddy. I am so glad to be back. Believe me.
I was worried about you, obviously, as well as everyone else.
Thank you so much.
You think that.
And I got Gary was calling me all the time, wondering how, and he was concerned about how I was, as was Mike and everybody else. And it's heartwarming to know that people care that much. I didn't know, and I'm telling you, it's very heartwarming to me, and I thank you all so very, very much. You know.
Well, let's you're looking good.
I'm feeling better. Believe me, I'm kind of like the old cowboy. Yeah. When they asked him, they said, "How you doing?" He says, "Oh, I've had better days, but I can't remember when."
Yeah. Well, Ray, that name deal I was running into was I would tell people that to go to Voices Not Yet Heard, and that's kind of a hard thing to remember. It doesn't snap at you. And the other thing was that so many of them would go to Google Voices Not Yet Heard or something similar and ended up with a hearing aid advertisement.
And me too. Some of my friends said the same thing.
But the name, Ray Johns, it's a Ray Johns show, and to me, all these people that have shows, they go by their first name, or their name, and that's how they are identified. And I thought, well, that's the way you should be also.
Well, Gary called me up and he told me that, and I kind of put it out, and everybody agreed with him. And I mean, It's Gary Miguel, okay? I mean, if he says something, you kind of, this man is informative. And he's back with us today. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. One thing that I definitely want to talk about, Gary sent me a formula to figure out the tax thing. And it is absolutely, I put different figures in there. I think the first one I put in there was $650,000 a year. And it was amazing how much money you saved. I mean, I enjoyed playing with it, and I think people will too. And can we talk about that a little bit, Gary?
Yeah. Well, it's on the internet. There are several of them. It's a tax calculator, a reform tax calculator. That's
You've got to go to that. You've got to go to it and do it for yourself.
And you do it for yourself.
It's very simple, isn't it, Gary? It's not that difficult.
Well, in fact, all you do is put down your gross, and then put down, it depends on dependents or not.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
You're going to come up with a ballpark number of what the tax reform meant for you personally.
I really wanted to put this out to the people because it's informative. It's to me, I just loved it. I went through it and I put in different figures,
Right.
And it was fun to do.
Yes. Yes, and it solved a lot of arguments, because there was a lot of misinformation being put out by the posers of the tax deal. And people were being told by the propaganda media, being told that, oh no, you're gonna pay more taxes. In fact, I just had this happen this last weekend. This guy was a pretty good sized taxpayer.
Was he a farmer, Gary? Big farmer?
No, he wasn't a farmer. He was a consultant down in Santa Barbara. And he says, no, I'm going to be paying more taxes.
It's because they listen to what they hear from the media. And the media
I says, well, I'm listening to people that are minimum wage saying they're going to pay more taxes.
Yes.
So I said, let's go to the calculator. And so in this case, for this guy that thought he was going to be paying more, arguing with me in that regard, and I said, no, you're going to be paying less. And I didn't know for sure, but I took a chance because he was pretty high income. And so I plugged that in that tax deal, and he saves $15,000.
Oh, my gosh, and that's significant. That is significant. Even when you make a lot of money, 15 grand
Well,
is
I mean,
significant,
come on. I'm thinking, there's a guy that was sold by because he's not a big TV watcher or something, but it's sold by the media.
Sure, as most are.
And most are. All the way down to the guy.
The minimum wage guy. That's what gets me.
Yeah, the guys that aren't even going to be paying any taxes, swear to God, they're going to be paying more taxes.
Well, I told you the story, I think it was a couple, maybe 3 months ago, about the two doctors that go to GB3 where I go to work out. And the husband, I have met the wife. They're both physicians. They make a great deal of money. And this is before the calculator came out. And he said, you know what? We found out that we're going to be in better shape than we've been in 20 years.
Yeah.
Well,
there's so much misinformation that comes out of what has now become pretty much everybody knows about fake media. And there's a reason for that. And that is to influence the people.
And that's what they do.
And that's what they do. And in fact, it's where I don't think they even try to hide that anymore. So
because it works so well.
Well, it works so well for them. They're supporting those who are against you. They're owned by those who are against you.
Absolutely.
And once you understand the fact that these people are against you, then you start looking at the alternative. Well, who is for me? And why is these people are no longer for or are not for me? Why is it? Well, you have to maybe do a little bit of soul searching to do that.
Yes.
But it's right there. I mean, it's the thing is, there's so many people that I call them libtards, Democrats.
I love that. I love that term.
Okay, and I think that when you think about the difference, what is it? Why do these people see something so opposite? How can that be?
It tells you how easily influenced they are by what they read, what they hear, what they see.
And it's what they see. Okay, now let's talk about that. Okay, a libtard sees what he believes. Okay? A normal believes what a normal believes what he sees. So if I believe something, then that belief that I have is me, right? And that's all I see.
Yeah.
But if I believe what I see, I'm seeing something, and then I'm saying, well, yeah, I believe that. There's a big difference there.
Sure, there is. Absolutely.
Yeah,
there is.
so when you believe what you see, so if I see if I see a red car getting in an accident with a blue car, then I'm seeing it. But boy, if somebody else has got in their mind that those were green cars, they're going to say that they're seeing.
It depends
what
on
they
how
believe.
you see the situation.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
That's it. And so much of that has to be, I don't know. It has to be thought out because there's no other explanation for it. You know, if you are looking at something and believing, and they truly believe that.
Of course they do.
You know, and that's because emotionally and psychologically or whatever, that they see what they are believe. In this case, what they're told to believe, and they believe it.
Boy, you know, the power of fake news is like Gary said, we're all familiar with it now, and it still has an effect. It is unbelievable because people, in my opinion, are basically lazy. They don't want to get out and do their own due diligence. It's so much easier to sit on the couch with popcorn and have somebody else tell you how the world is ran.
Well, of course, that's the true, you know, and that part, I don't think you could change it, but what you can do is just continue and not give in to what would be false beliefs.
Absolutely.
You know, and
people aren't going to necessarily get up and go do their due diligence like you and I do. I try to encourage people to do it. Don't believe in it. But like you said, at the same time, don't believe everything that you see.
Well, and the thing is, when you start seeing the proof of it, which people are going to start seeing with this tax reform, is huge.
Absolutely,
you know?
they are. That's a
I
big
mean,
one there.
how do you avoid not seeing that? You know, and then you look at what's going on with the stock market. How do you not see that?
Yeah.
You see, and then you
Boy,
go,
that's an obvious one there, isn't it, Gary?
well, I mean, it's just incredible. I never dreamed in a million years that it would be like that. And then you start seeing the results of that. So now you're seeing something that is something you can touch and put your hand on.
Something tangible,
Well, it makes
absolutely.
It makes somebody look pretty stupid sitting there denying it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
How
it's
do you
right
deny
there. You
that?
can't.
You know,
You can't.
and
Which is true with some people. You got to hit them over the head.
well,
before
I
they
understand
understand
that, you know, and they're going to believe no matter what. Unfortunately, there's more that are seeing than believing what they want to believe.
Yeah.
And as opposed to believing what is actually there, and that's going to take some time, you know. But it is happening as time goes by, you know, and the proof is there, and you can't deny it. Just like I said the other day, I talked to this person who was in his mind believed that he was going to be paying more taxes. Well, now he sees that he's not. You know, but
there's
it took
so many.
that.
There's so many like that.
Well,
you
of
know?
course, and so it takes time.
Yeah, because
And-
I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
I think, oh my gosh, look at what you know, and they'll see me with my Trump shirt on, and they'll say, okay,
Yeah.
what about this tax thing?
Yeah.
You know? And it always makes me laugh when they hit me with it.
Well, you got to ask yourself, number one, why is it that somebody thinks they ought to pay more taxes? I mean, to me, okay, now let's separate here. Let's be practical about that. Obviously, a government employee, his employer is the government. So it's understandable that he would not be for a lower taxes to the American people.
Sure,
Because that's
that
where
pays his salary.
that pays his income. It's, you know, that's his boss. So you could understand how a government employee would be against the taxpayers paying less taxes.
Sure.
He'd want them to pay more
Absolutely,
taxes.
makes sense.
Makes sense, doesn't it? And that makes common sense. So the difference in is those who are paying the taxes that are not employed by the government, they have to ask themselves, why am I paying all this taxes when that is coming right out of my pocket, you see? And so then we expect to be, those dollars we hope to be efficient, because we know we have to have government. There can't be no government.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think what you have to look at is, and some of the changes, and probably the biggest change is the tax reduction for everyone.
Yeah.
In essence, unless you're up in the multi-million.
But that doesn't. Yeah,
that's not everyone.
They're 1%ers.
Or not even, or whatever. Yeah. We don't know. We don't know those kind of. I mean, I don't know any billionaires. Do you personally?
No.
So neither.
I'm counting on you to be the first one I know.
No. But anyway, what happened is what we could look at with that, and probably the biggest thing in that tax reform, beside the tax reduction to everyone, and Trump even mentioned it one time, and the biggest thing in that tax reform is capital investment tax credit. That is huge, and that is not really understood yet, but it's going to probably be the biggest thing of all that comes out of this reform in terms of benefit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And how that works, Ray, I'm trying to simplify it. Okay.
Simplify it for all of us.
Yeah. Okay. And for myself. But what it amounts to is, let's say you want to go into business and you're going to buy this, we'll just make it simple, and you're going to buy this $100,000 truck that you need to go into that.
This is kind of the example that you sent me about the mobile home, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I love that. I was going to ask you to talk about that,
right.
So now we are. Good.
Okay,
Good.
and I'm going to try to make it to where it's simple. Okay, so what happens is, let's say you need that $100,000 to get that, because you see an opportunity for yourself if you have that truck.
Sure.
Okay, that's a piece of equipment.
Maybe I'm hauling mobile homes or
something. Whatever. But the point is, you need that in order for your business to thrive. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that makes sense. Now, where do you have to, what do you have to go to do that? You have to go to a bank to borrow the money. Unless you had the money yourself, but that isn't going to happen for 90% of the time, so you're going to go to the bank. Well, who are the banks? Well, under the old regime, the banks, and the regulations with the bank, the Dodd-Frank and all that, it got to where their little banks couldn't even make these loans anymore. The regulations were so prohibitive that you couldn't go down and make a loan. I have a nephew who's a banker, and he says to borrow $5,000, it takes damn near $400,000 of asset. He says that, my God.
That's why they can't do it.
And it's small banks.
It's just like when I was in the mortgage business. It didn't do any, it finally got so it didn't do you any good to make a $20,000 loan because it cost too much. It wasn't cost effective to do that.
It wasn't cost. So that took that kind of thing, the $100,000 that it kind of took all that out of the economy.
Yeah.
So people weren't able to grow, right? So what comes in with this tax reform, with that investment tax credit, capital investment tax credit, is you're able to deduct that $100,000 the first year.
Listen to this. This is really good stuff, folks.
Okay, so now if you're a taxpayer, and we'll just make it one guy, one person, and let's say this person owes $100,000 to the IRS or to the U.S. taxes, right? And he owes $100,000. What he can do is he can buy the truck. And if he buys the truck and he has a company, that's formed, that I'm cutting a lot of this short to keep it simple. But anyway, in essence, what happens is he then is able to buy the truck, of which you turn around and lease it with an option
from him.
Yeah, and so you give an option. So you now pay the truck, let's say, over a 5-year period, which you can do. Let's say, I can do that in 5 years, but I just can't do it today.
Now,
And so, but this taxpayer who owes right now the $100,000, he can write the $100,000 off. And so what happens is now you have the truck,
which is your goal.
And you are now creating business, and that creates and improves the economy.
This is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful.
Right. Okay, so this taxpayer now, instead of having to write that check for $100,000 to the IRS, he writes that check to
buy the truck.
To buy the truck. And so
he gets it as a tax write-off.
And he gets it. That's his incentive.
That blows my mind. That is absolutely beautiful.
Right. And this is why it's so powerful. Now, Now, when you think about this, if he takes that 100,000 and he puts it to work on this $100,000 truck, look at all the people that went to work that built that truck, from right down from the tire manufacturer to the.
Plus, it's still working and employing people.
Yeah, and those people are paying taxes now.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is far greater.
It's blossoming.
Well, when you start from that original 100,000 and escalate what that 100,000 does, plus what you do with it, it makes that 100,000 look minor.
Yeah.
Because you probably created something like $500,000 worth of benefit.
Absolutely.
And the economy grows because of that.
That's beautiful, Gary.
Okay, now one thing that people have to understand, this is the hard part perhaps, but it's pretty simple when you think about it. IRS has always, and the government has always encouraged tax planning. Because people get nervous about, well, if I don't pay some tax. That isn't why you get audited or anything. You don't get paid that. In fact, you get paid if you don't pay any tax, but you tax plan. You're encouraged to do that. And basically, what it boils down to is this. And if you keep this way, you'll be okay. All right. And what you have to do is say to yourself, okay, the government gives us two choices, and those choices are either we are going to spend it or you are going to spend it. Now, you have a choice with that 100,000. You either write that 100,000 check to me government, or you write that 100,000 to purchase that truck.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
And in both cases, the money's spent, and that's what the government wants.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. But they don't give you the choice, and this is what people get confused about. We do not have the choice to take that 100,000 and put it under a mattress in our bed.
Yeah.
So that money has to be spent.
One way or another.
One way or another, and they don't care how it is. And I've done this before, back in the 70s. This is the first time that this new tax thing reminds me of the way things were in the 70s. And I've done that before. I've had IRS audits and all the rest and everything. And in fact, they encourage you to tax plan.
That's brilliant.
Because
it really is. It's brilliant.
If you send the 100,000 to the government, you may not agree with the way the government spends that money.
Well, of course, most of the time you probably won't.
And most of the time you won't. Well, isn't it nice now you have a choice?
You have it, yes.
To spend it where you want
yes,
to.
Yes, exactly.
You don't have to buy the truck. If you don't like trucks, then go over here and buy some medical equipment.
Yeah.
Equipment
doesn't matter.
is equipment.
Like you said, it's your choice.
Right. Yeah. Now what you've done is made the people all bankers. The high tax people are all bankers. Okay. And I don't care if you have to pay $5,000 tax. You don't want to do it, then go this route. Yeah. And so what happens is it returns the money back to the people.
There you go.
You see, and to the tune of a lot of money. Okay, I'll give you an example like retirement alone. Retirement alone is $24 trillion. That money isn't sitting in a mountain somewhere.
Yeah.
If you took all the retirement everybody had, it comes out to $24 trillion.
Good grief! I had no idea.
It's turned. Okay, now wouldn't it be nice if you get to be the recipient of some of the gain of that instead of that what they're paying? Of course
it would. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can. And if you look at someone, for instance, let's just say 20 years old goes to work, works 40 years, or 30 years old works 40 years. Or 30 years, okay? Now, let's just take an example. If he owes taxes of, say, $20,000 or $10,000, but let's say $20,000, and he's able to secure an additional $20,000 every year that he wouldn't otherwise, look how that adds up. Take that times 30 even.
Oh, my gosh.
You see? And that's how much money you'd have in your retirement over and above what you're going to have as it was prior to that. And it amounts to $600,000 to $800,000, depending on how long you work. So if you're sitting there, the difference is if you do this choice rather than what it has been, the way the tax thing has been since '86, if you do this choice here and understand it, you will end up in the normal, let's say you're paying $10,000 a year as an example. Well, if you don't have to pay that $10,000, take that times 30. That's $300,000 that you have in addition in your retirement when you retire. And that's what we're talking about. And we're talking about, in addition to that, you can make that grow year after year. But I'm just being, make it simple. Yeah. So what did we learn? All right. So we learned that with the tax deal that we can tax plan ourselves, okay, and we can then take and keep our money that normally we would have to write a check for it, and the government gave us a choice: either you spend it or I spend it. Mm-hmm. So you choose to spend it, and you're going to end up at the end of that period with a minimum of whatever tax deal you're paying. If you're paying $20,000, that's $600,000 at the end of 30-year career, or 40, but whatever you choose. But the point is, look how much more you're getting to your benefit.
Oh my gosh!
Now you take that times the millions and millions of people. Now you start to understand the wealth of the American people and what Trump talks about when he talks about the American people are going to benefit exponentially.
The man knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
He knows
well,
exactly
I'm sitting here like you and I are sitting here in this chair. I can't help but think Trump doesn't already know all this.
Of course he does.
And a whole lot of other people.
Yes.
And I'll tell you who a whole lot of them do know about it. It's the other side. It's the Democrats that have, and the rhinos, the Republican rhinos who have been sucking this money from the American public all this time.
We're going to take a break here in a little bit, but when we come back this morning, and I just got a little glimpse of it because I know I was going to come do the show today, and I'm looking as much things as I could. I understand, and maybe you know about this. You always seem to be a step ahead of all the rest of us. Maybe you already know about this. They're getting ready to do a total investigation into the Clinton Foundation.
Right.
I figured you probably knew that. It was on the news this morning.
Right.
So that's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Well, there's a possibility of 4 investigations.
Oh, there is? Oh.
Yeah. There's the Uranium One investigation, which she will be under.
Oh, my goodness.
They're going to reinvestigate the email deal. Mm-hmm. They got the foundation.
How about the uranium thing?
And the uranium thing.
I thought that was going to be a big part.
So she's under a good potential. Right now she's under 3 for sure and a potential of 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, you watched that movie way back when, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was talked about then.
Yeah.
And so it's now coming to where it's fruition. And it's going to involve a lot of people, probably all the way up to Obama.
Good.
That's probably what it'll do. And
I would think that he would definitely have to be involved.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was put there as a puppet to begin with, but it's going to ensnare a lot of people. And I think in this next month especially, more and more of the public will become aware of just how serious it was. Because had not Trump been elected,
oh my goodness,
we would be on a handcart to Venezuela right now like you won't believe.
Is that so scary or what?
Well, of course it is.
And you said it long before the election. That there are 8 steps to communism, and we'd already gone through 6 or 7 of them at the time.
Right.
The 8th was Hillary Clinton being elected.
Right.
So we dodged a bullet.
We
actually dodged a cannon. Is what we dodged. We dodged a cannonball or a rocket or something.
And there's a lot of people who voted for Hillary who are just low information to the point to where they were bought.
Sure they were.
Which the Democrats been doing that now for
40 years or longer. Yeah.
They buy the votes through welfare, and the more they can get on welfare, the more votes they get.
Well, of course.
And it's just like the immigration. Those people weren't sending their good people, their best people, like that lottery.
Yeah.
Okay, they put the names in the hopper and run the deal and pull the name. Who are they putting in there? They're not putting their best.
No.
They're putting their worst. They're trying to get them out of there.
Yeah.
And they're the ones we pick and bring them over. That doesn't make sense, does it?
Makes sense to them because they're voters for them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're treating us like that. They're getting rid of the worst they got, and then we get them, and they cry like crazy. These poor people. Oh my God!
Isn't that awful? Gary, we're going to take a break, ladies and gentlemen, and I just got to say again, I am so happy to be back here. And we're going to be back in, say, 2 and 2, ladies and gentlemen.
Gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today.
Okay, I'm back with Gary, and we've been talking about the tax break and, of course, the possible investigation into Hillary Clinton. But we have a lot of things that we want to talk. And Gary has just a ton of things. The problem is we run out of time, you know. So, Gary, what would you like to talk about, buddy?
Well, that investigation, it's kind of interesting how that has been going about in this last year. Now, we talked about before about the rope that Trump just leaves out, right? Well, it ends up looking like a huge sting is what it looks like. And Mueller, with his investigation, which has been going on for over a year or a year, something like that, and that was, all the attention was on Russia collusion with Trump and Russia, right?
Yeah.
Well, as it turns out, and Trump knew that all along, it was all a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was something that was actually the collusion was the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Yes.
That was the collusion
Yes,
with
it was,
Russia.
and they brought that out. Yeah.
And that's interesting because if you look at all communists like Marx and those, they always say, accuse others of doing what you're yourself
doing.
are doing.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
and this is a classic case. And so now, as that has come out, what has happened though? In the meantime, it has brought out a lot of the people who were involved in that subversion of takeover of our country through a subversive type treason.
Yeah.
And now you had to get, who are these people? Well, it had to be that this hoax that they had gone with the investigation was little by little, people were being identified as those who did start the hoax.
Yeah.
And you just had to let that continue on, and to where they thought they were nailing Trump, when in fact that was all part of the plan
All
that
part of
Trump
the plan.
had to bring out
Sure.
them. And
Sure.
that's what happened. Okay?
How brilliant was that?
How brilliant was that? So there's going to be a lot of people. They talk about the small group. Right now there's probably about 20, but there will be many more. They'll just, because pretty soon people are going to start becoming canaries, you know.
Sure they are.
I mean,
They're gonna sing to save their own
oh,
butts.
they're
That's
all
happen.
going to start singing.
It always happens. that
And
way.
it had to, all this makes sense now that it took this long, because it took that long in order to see and identify who is the ones that are anti-American, let's put it,
Yeah.
I don't know, for lack of something else. I mean, the treasonous people.
Yeah.
Because now we're finding out who they are and who were, and I mean, it's weird when you consider, you think about it, here's some guy that nobody ever knew, McCabe, and his girlfriend, instrumental in what could have overthrown the government of the United States. I mean, who would ever dream of something like that?
Yeah.
They were exercising the power to be instrumental in the overthrow of the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, that's dangerous and it's scary.
Yeah.
Luckily, there was enough smart voters who somehow intuitively or whatever that voted for Trump to overcome, because they thought for sure there was no way in 10 times of
I know.
what that Trump was going to lose. You know, they knew he was going to lose.
Oh yeah, they did.
They knew they were going to win.
Yeah.
But fortunately, there was enough Americans that seen through all that elected Trump, and that has put those people who were designed to take over this country, Obama one of them,
Yeah.
overthrow it as we know it,
Yeah.
and come in with an entirely different, communist central controlled government.
It's like you said, we dodged a major bullet.
Oh, I mean, we dodged as major a bullet as any bullet we've ever dodged going back to revolution.
Yeah.
You know, all those things come to a very close balance, but it swings. Civil War, swing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And right now, this is what we talked about. We said we're in a civil war. We talked about that last summer.
Sure we did.
You know, but we're in a civil war like no other, and that's where we're at right now. And looks like that we are going to win.
Oh, I'm sure we are. Yeah.
You know, and But that was such a blow. Now, what those people should have done that wanted to stay out of jail, what they should have done when Trump won, they should have just shut up.
Exactly.
You know,
And it was just the opposite with those idiots.
just the opposite. And those people were also being used by the real controllers, which is the
Soros.
the Soros,
the
billionaires.
yeah. Just like puppets, and they don't even know it. That's the sad part about it.
They don't even realize it.
They don't even realize it,
No, and you go talk to some of the people that you know that are libtards, and
God, I love that term.
but they're just in a different deal, and I kind of look at it this way because I've heard this a number of times. And I'm starting to believe it is that being a libtard is a certain deranged illness that has no it has equal opportunity employment. In other words, it doesn't matter if you're educated, doesn't matter your IQ, doesn't matter how old you are or anything. What you can be afflicted by, just like you were with the flu.
Well, yeah. I mean, any time you're allowed yourself to be led around by the nose by somebody else, you got a problem. It means you don't think for yourself.
No, you're not thinking for yourself, but what's most important, you're not thinking what's good for yourself.
Yeah.
That's even more critical. And you have to ask yourself, Ray, because we've come at it, and as you go along, you start seeing it more and more. I mean, what? Let's say in the ghettos, which let's say predominantly black, as we know. What in the world does those people in those ghettos? Don't they have to ask themselves somewhere, why am I a third, fourth generation ghetto dweller? I mean,
I would think that there were some there that would ask that.
Well, I'm sure there is.
There's got to be.
Yeah, there's people that come out of the ghetto. There's some top,
of course,
business people.
Yeah,
and educators and so forth. But that's so few.
It's a total minority.
And but it's an enslavement. It's an enslavement of the mind, which is every bit as cruel as any kind of enslavement. And so now they are enslaved into a plantation known as a ghetto, and they never come out of it.
That's right.
Now, isn't that sad? Think
it's
about
really
that.
sad. They know, and to me, and you're absolutely right. How can you get from point A to point B if you don't even know B exists?
Exactly.
And they don't.
And they do not. And so, but what they are people who continue to vote to keep and perpetuate that.
Exactly.
It'd be no different than the go back to the Civil War, and it'd be no different that if 100% of the black slaves at that time fought for the South. That's what these people are doing.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
It's the same.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah. In other words, it'd be no. You look back on it and you say, "Well, that doesn't make sense." These people were trying to get away from slavery. They were being smuggled and all the rest. Now, does it make sense that those people would all of a sudden they have the opportunity to no longer be a slave, but instead they fight for slavery?
Doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, it doesn't make any sense today.
No, it does not.
That somebody sitting on welfare in a ghetto continues to vote for a Democrat.
Doesn't make any sense. And they don't realize it. That's the sad part. Or they wouldn't do it. They don't realize it. They don't understand it. They come around. You gave a good example. Must have been 6, 7 months ago when you said they come around every 4 years with their little trinkets.
Right.
And what does that do? That makes you feel obligated.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. That's what's happened
what
with the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
For 40 or 50 years it's happened.
For 40 or 50 years it has happened that way. And people have got to wise up, which they are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're seeing it.
And but you can't, I look at that and I say, I can't in a way fault the people simply because they are being maintained in existence. And no matter how cruel and raunchy it is, how come the Democrats haven't helped these people? I mean, don't you have to sit there somewhere and say, well, geez, why are we still here? What is going on?
That's the sad part to me. And
Yeah.
a great question. Why haven't they?
Yeah, why haven't they? And you'd have to ask yourself, my gosh, why not? And I think that the realization is going to start happening a little differently now. It's going to take time. And I think what we're going to be seeing is vocational schools and things for people to learn skills. They don't need to learn about how far it is from Earth to the moon. They need to learn a skill of how to weld a seam or
So
something.
that they can go out and get a position and make a living and contribute to the American cause.
Absolutely. And then that'd be the contribution that we all can be part of.
Sure.
And we know that if we know that everyone's is contributing, we have a lot in common, don't we?
Absolutely.
I got a lot in common with some guy over there that I know is working just like I am.
Exactly.
But if I got some guy over there that's on that's loafing, I don't have much
You
in
don't have
common with
anything
him.
in common with him.
Yeah, so then that brings people together rather than the other
Yeah.
way.
That's another thing.
And this tax reform is it's a social manipulation of something, and I think it does a lot to help in the improvement of people,
It's a good point, Gary. Yeah.
having something in common,
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone objects to people at below a certain rate not paying any taxes, and I don't think anybody objects to having the taxes lowered by people.
No.
What is it for? I mean, there was no taxes until 1913, Ray.
I know that.
I mean, the big part of the existence of this country was at a time when there was zero taxes. So
And
why?
remember what Henry David Thoreau said? He says, "I think it's un-American to have to pay taxes."
Well-
He always spouted that off,
Well, actually it is, but I think in a roundabout way, of course, that wouldn't even get to that. But in a roundabout way, if everybody would, and that's the way it used to be, you got to keep your money and you invest and bought that truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't have the money taken away from you, so now you can't buy the truck. You had the money all along.
Yeah.
So what we're doing now is saying somebody over here with the money, will still buy that truck.
That is just so brilliant to me. That is so brilliant. Heck, I could market that.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing: you're over here, and now you're saying, let the American people enjoy the benefit of the money that they are earning by taking what they would owe in taxes instead of paying it to
Instead
the
of
government.
paying the government.
They got to do, but they, you notice I didn't say put it in their savings account.
Yeah.
I said you got to go buy that truck.
Yeah.
And then you go from there.
He writes that off. The guy with the truck is happy. It's a win-win situation for everyone.
And he pays it back over a period of years. He
Yeah.
pays that money back to the guy. That was his incentive, was that he gets his money back.
Yeah, and in the meantime, this guy that's gotten the truck, his business is enhanced by volumes.
By
Because
volume, you
because
put
he
it.
needs the truck.
In fact, he may need 2 trucks.
He may
by
need 2 trucks.
Yeah. And so his business grows, puts people to work.
Yeah, that's
And
another
his
positive.
business grows. Your business only grows if you're benefiting somebody.
Absolutely.
In other words, when you sell somebody a mobile home, it's because that person buying it feels he's benefiting by buying the
Absolutely,
mobile
Gary.
home. Right.
Absolutely.
So it's not like anything other than everybody enjoys a benefit with this. And like Trump said it, he said that part that I don't know how they're going to come out with the final regulations and rules, and that hasn't been written yet, but it'll be okay. But the point is, like Trump said, he said that is probably bigger than the actual tax break alone.
Yeah.
And man, that is huge, because what's been happening is this money. That's why these people fight Trump. Trump's not being fought because of his deal with whatever it is he said in the locker room and all this other stuff that they come up. I mean, that is, you don't even, after a while, you don't even read that, right?
No.
He's being fought by the the billionaires who are controlling trillions. And with Trump's plan, that control of those trillions is going back to the individual people. So instead of them
Of
controlling
course they're going to fight him
trillions-
for that. Yeah,
yeah, we're talking about trillions of dollars being at stake that the deep state has been using off the backs of the American people. And there's nobody that operates off the back of the American people And there's Republicans in that, too.
Oh, I know that. Yeah,
Okay.
you and I talked
but
about
nobody
that.
does it like the Democrats.
No one does it like them. And they're experts at it. And like you and I've said, they've been doing it for 40, 50 years.
Well, they brainwash the people through propaganda, and education anymore is no longer education; it's indoctrination, and they successfully have done
point.
that. You
Very
see?
good point.
And so you have now indoctrination, and you have another side of it, which is the media, which is 95%. The major media is propaganda.
Absolutely, at least 95%. Yeah.
So when we couple propaganda with indoctrination, it's a wonder that Trump did get elected.
It is.
He should have got elected like 90%, but it's a wonder that
It really is, because people believe what they see, hear, and read about.
And that didn't happen overnight. We've been getting propaganda since going back to the Vietnam War.
Sure.
From the media.
Yeah.
And we've been getting indoctrinated going clear back to that time. So the last 40, 50 years of indoctrination and propaganda, how in the world does Trump win? That's what nailed him. They figured with 40 years or 50 years of propaganda, 40, 50 years of indoctrination that we have done successfully and bought the voters through welfare.
They thought it was a walk, Gary, and it
How
wasn't.
could Trump possibly win?
They thought it was a walk,
But
and
there
it
was
wasn't.
enough. There was enough. I call it the cold anger. Americans that seen through that, and I say the word cold anger because they were angered, but they never said anything. They just observed, and they watch them. No, that's not right. No, that's not right. They don't say anything. But when it came time to go to the polls, they made their statement. Pretty interesting.
It's very, very interesting.
And it's encouraging.
Yeah.
I think that people have a right now. Let's say I was a former anti-Trumper and all this. Well, I have an opportunity now to get on the right wagon and obviously feel good about it and become a part of what you have on your show, The American Patriot.
I love it. I do indeed love it. Well, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, like we do almost every time Gary's on, we've run out of time. We've got another show coming on after us, so we're going to cut it short a little bit here today. But let me say again how very grateful I am for all the cards, all the phone calls. Like I said, I would sit my phone down for half an hour and pick it up, and there'd be 20 calls on there with people wishing me well and saying prayers for me and helping me, and it all worked. God bless all of you. It helped so much. I am so happy to be back. The new name of the show, American Patriot, like I said, the format is not going to change, other than the fact that we're going to feature a special Patriot every single week. Gary loved that idea, and we're going to do it every single week. So let me pin Gary down. Gary, we're going to have you. Can we get you back next week?
Well, we got to.
Okay, good. Yeah,
but we're going to have a lot happen this week.
We're just getting started. So we're going to have this young man back next week. I'll be back next week, and I'll be better. I'm about 70%. Hopefully I'll be 80 to 90 next week, and then the week after that I'll be full back. So just thank you. I am making progress because of you. And let me say this. Yesterday, day before yesterday, I met a wonderful policeman. I'm not going to mention his name for obvious reason, at Walmart. And I wanted to thank that young man and tell him that I have not made that phone call yet, but I'll make it. And I just went up to him to shake his hand to tell him what a great job we think that they do. Fresno's finest, Clovis finest, highway patrolman, any law enforcement officer that you see, please go up and tell them how much we appreciate what they do, because we do. And we couldn't make it without them. They are out there to serve us, and they do a great job. And God bless them. So until we meet joyously next Wednesday at 3 p.m., heaven's blessings.
Hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to L.A., where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least
CentralValleyTalk.com